So ladies and gentlemen, it is really my honor to be the moderator for the panel today, which is very interesting topic, the digital transformation and 5G to head with the smart factories. By way of introduction, I am Ha. I'm the managing partner of KPMG Hanoi office and also the head of infrastructure, government and healthcare of KPMG Vietnam and Cambodia. As KPMG, apart from audit and tax service, we are honored to help our client also with legal, deal advisory, and consulting service. And because of that, we are actually fortunate to take part with our clients in their digital transformation journey. So back to the topic for today, digital transformation is a very broad concept. And actually, people can come up with many definitions. I think that one of the most comprehensive and short and precise definition is digital transformation is a journey whereby you use the technology solutions to create or modify the existing or create the new processes, cultures, and customer experience to meet the ever-changing market and business requirements. So to join me for today, we have a very, very interesting panelists who come from different industry and sectors. To start our panel, I would love to ask each of our panelists to have a brief introduction about themselves and about their companies. So thank you. So may I ask you, Mandan, to start first.
Good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm Mandal. I'm CEO of TH Milk, and I've worked in this company for last 10 years, and I'm in Vietnam for 10 years. Now, briefly, few lines about our company. TH is the pioneering brand in the field of fresh milk with an assured quality, and we had ceaseless product development program. This is only possible because we have chosen in the beginning the state-of-the-art modern digital technology to start with. Thank you. That's now we go forward.
Pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Please.
Hi, my name is Chung. I'm absolutely delighted to be on this panel to talk about a very interesting topic. So I'm a steering committee member of the Digital Economy Working Group of the Vietnam Business Forum. And the Vietnam Business Forum, or VBF for short, is made up of domestic and the foreign business associations to have a dialogue and to give feedback to the Vietnam government to improve the business environment of Vietnam. For my day job, I'm a partner with the law firm Baker & McKenzie, assisting investors to invest and do acquisitions in Vietnam over a diverse range of sectors, including digital, logistics, real estate, etc. Thank you.
Welcome to the panel, and over to the gentleman from Ericsson.
Hello, my name is Dennis Brunetti, and I've been working with Ericsson for 32 years actually, based across 6 different countries. In Vietnam now for the last 5 years as president of Ericsson Vietnam, Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos. I also sit on the board of the Vietnam Business Coalition for Women's Empowerment and the Vietnam Business Council for Sustainable Development. I'm currently the Vice Chairman of the Australian Chamber of Commerce and the former Chairman of Eurocham as well. I enjoy working in Vietnam, I love Vietnam, and digital transformation is something that's very important to Ericsson. We are the market leader globally in 5G. We've been around since 1876 globally, and in Vietnam since 1993, building the first mobile networks in this country, up to now with commercial trials in 5G. Thank you.
And the last but not the least panelist, over to you.
Yeah, so my name is David Leiden. I am the Trade Commissioner of Sweden to Vietnam at the embassy here in Hanoi. And at the same time, I'm also the country manager for Business Sweden, which is an organization that is trying to help Swedish companies work globally, basically growing global sales and facilitate investments. So, of course, in the past, we've worked a lot with Ericsson, for instance, a Swedish company, but it's a broad range of companies. I'm relatively new to Vietnam, only been here for 2 months now, but I have extensive experience from working in China, Japan, and then globally when I was a management consultant before this at BCG.
Right.
So very happy to be here and discuss this important topic.
Yeah. So welcome you all, and you see like we have a very great panelists here. We have manufacturing, we have law, we also have technology firm, and also from the diplomat sector. So to warm up our discussion, I would like to ask the audience and also the panelists to join me to watch over a clip from Ericsson, I guess, on the digital transformation. Thank you.
We are revealing the 5 most impactful use cases in smart manufacturing. These game-changing technologies will pay for themselves in 3 to 5 years, or in just 2 years if used together. First and most important thing is connectivity. A smart factory floor requires strong and reliable connection. And 4G and 5G private cellular networks offer just that. High speed, low latency, even within dense environments. First, AMRs, they offer the most value. They can maneuver around the production floor, carrying, tracing, and inspecting, and even reduce injuries by doing the riskier jobs. Augmented reality can offer technicians visual instructions and overlays so they don't have to move back and forth between a manual and equipment. Collaborative robots help operators do tasks like drilling, assembly, and especially inspections. That means factories can inspect 100% of their products. A digital twin is a virtual copy of your facility, so you can change operations, plan scenarios, or test new environments, but without physically changing anything. Finally, asset condition monitoring helps you collect data from your machinery and alerts you when maintenance is needed. That means less downtime and less replacement parts. If all 5 used together, they can pay for themselves in just 2 years. To find out more, read our report, Connected Manufacturing.
So we have just seen the video that actually share and show the important role of the digital transformation in factories around the world in this changing digital age. So here would be, I want to share the first question to all of the panelists, please. So digital transformation, as we observe, already becomes a trend among the manufacturers all over the world. So from your own experience and perspective, how you view the automation actually affecting the manufacturing enterprises, and also more in terms of operation efficiency, competitiveness, and global integration. Because this is relating to manufacturing, may I ask you, Mandan, to share first?
Thank you. Okay, let me take few minutes to explain the full value chain what we do. Right, our model is grass to glass. So we make our own agricultural produce for the cows to eat. We produce milk in a dairy farm and we bring it to the factory to process it and then distribute it. Now, in terms of technology, we use a very modern agriculture technology in the farm. We call it a tensiometer. Precisely, I'm taking you down to the specific beauty of this technology. It sends water where the root of the grass is. So we use a tensiometer which measures where the roots are, and accordingly we spray the water. So it's precise and it brings you the best productivity in the farming. Then in the cattle side of it, all our cows are having a data tag which takes care of the nutrition and the health system. Even it tells when it is going to be pregnant, when it is going to time for breeding, when it is going to deliver the calf. So this is what we do in the farm. And then when it comes to the factory, it's a PLC control factory, which is called Programmable Logic Control Factory. These are based on IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things. So in short, it's connected, the machines talk to each other. Now coming back to your precise question, how it is effective and efficiency. With this technology, the beauty is it's error-free, it's defectless, and it's exactly the precise thing. So the number of errors, number of wastages are very less. You exactly get what you want. The efficiencies are very high. Just to let you know, in our factories, some of the lines we run at, when I say lines, it's from processing, it's from filling, it's downstream support. It runs at an around 97.5, 98%, which is quite high. It's not possible without connected factories.
Right, interesting. So I think that from what you share, we can see that the digital transformation are actually embedded throughout the value chain, and that's why where it includes and add the value on the operation efficiency. So I mean, Dennis, from your view, because Ericsson as a kind of technology companies, what can you add, on what Mandan just shared, please?
Yeah, I think what Mandan shared was very important, and clearly I think the common thread, or wireless thread almost I would say, throughout your description was that everything is wireless, so whether it's in the grass or whether it's on the cow or in the factory, you have all these sensors that are connected wirelessly, and through wireless connectivity you can do so much more. You don't have cables, you've got a lot more efficiency, you can collect data, use that data to take decisions in real time to help make every aspect of that whole chain, supply chain, production flow efficient and productive. So from Ericsson's perspective, we believe that this is critically important, especially in the context of Vietnam, because when you look at the geopolitical and all the things that are happening around the world today, we see opportunities moving towards Asia Pacific for manufacturing. We think that about 2/3 of manufacturers around the world will shift their manufacturing hubs to Asia Pacific by 2030, or 2025 I should say. And that's going to present a huge opportunity for Vietnam to attract a lot of that foreign direct investment, especially since Vietnam has such a strong policy on attracting high-tech FDI and digitally transforming Vietnam at an accelerated pace through the digital transformation strategy, national strategy, which was signed off by the then Prime Minister of Vietnam in December 31st, 2020, which basically articulated very clearly that over the coming years, productivity growth rates are to accelerate by 2025 at 7%, by 2030 7.5%, with the digital economy making up 20% and 30% respectively of GDP in those years. And clearly manufacturing, smart manufacturing, given that it's 20% of the GDP of Vietnam, will play a significant role in helping achieve that. And then of course through automation, through AI, through machine learning, and all the technology that's embedded around and sits on top of the 5G wireless connectivity, that will be realised very, very quickly, I believe, in Vietnam. And really the government of Vietnam, I have to say, we have to applaud for having a very strategic and purposeful vision and strategy that I believe is best for Vietnam's future.
Thank you, Dennis, because you just put the digital transformation more in the Vietnam context, as a kind of alternative manufacturing hub, in the region. So I have a question for you, Chung, because in terms of the manufacturing that Dennis already mentioned, VBF has been always seen as a great platform for the foreign business community to share their views on this. So from your position, can you share with us your perspective in this regard? Thank you.
Yeah, sure, glad to. I think first as a big picture point, and bearing in mind that VBF comprises of companies and businesses from different sectors. So I think everybody knows, everybody understands you have to adapt. You have to adapt to new technologies to compete or to very least survive. The way I always look at it is that if you adapt and your competitors don't, you're ahead of the game. If you adapt and your competitors do, okay, so you guys compete on a level playing field. But the worst situation is that if you don't adapt, all right, then you're really going to be outpaced. So I think all the industries understand this, but adaptation is not an easy process. The way I see it is like the 4 A's. You need to be aware, you need to assess, you need to adopt, and then you need to advance. I think one of the struggles right now is actually the assessment bit, knowledge. Like, there's so much technology, there's so many new and exciting things, there's so many opportunities, and we know it, we see it. But where do you start, right? Whether I'm a big business, whether I'm a small business, where do I begin? So I think that stage where you assess your needs, what's really mission critical, and who can help you. I think that's what some of the struggles that some of the companies are facing. All right. And after you do your assessment, you adopt, you make a decision, you advance, you implement, and that in itself is another big journey, right? Because the time it takes to adopt a new technology, the time it takes to make the returns. Although we did see that if you put 5 of the components together in the clip earlier, you get it back in 2 years. But I guess that varies from industry to industry. Now back to the VBF. So we are the dialogue platform and give feedback to the government. And yes, I do agree that the government has taken on board and is pushing forward the agenda of IR 4.0, smart cities, and that's all really great. But at the same time, there are a lot of bits and pieces that needs to be developed, needs to improved on. All right, I'll just give kind of a very simple example. A lot of the devices and equipment we're bringing these days have civil cryptography functions, right? Just encryption. And there are regulations and procedures for the import of these products. Well, the procedures are not that smooth. Sometimes the instructions are not very clear. So VBF did write to Government Cipher Committee. And I think about 3 weeks ago, we actually had a very constructive dialogue with the GCC on how to improve and facilitate the import of these products into Vietnam. So I think it's also important for the private sector and the government to continuously have these kind of meaningful dialogues to help Vietnam and the companies to realize the visions of IR 4.0.
Thank you. Thank you very much, especially when you share the activities that VBF shared with the government to help with the smart factories in Vietnam. And I really like your 4 areas of the adaptation, right? Awareness, assess, adapt, and then advance.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now I know that the Sweden government has been always a long-term friend of Vietnam government, and you've been with us throughout all of the time, especially during this journey of economy development. So David would like to hear your perspective for this topic. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm lucky to be the 4th speaking panelist because the smart gentleman on my left have already said a lot of good things. But I think to try to summarize it a little bit, right? So connectivity is key. And I think this is going back a little bit from, the applications of digital technology. I think that the information revolution and digitalization is basically just a new form of industrial revolution. It used to be that we used machines to replace our muscles, and now we are trying to offload our very busy brains with digital solutions. The key to do that is to have connectivity, that you have sharing of data, and then how to implement it. I really like the assess approach as well, because to me, the term minimum viable product is quite important. Exactly what will make sense for each and every company in Vietnam is hard to say from my perspective, and thus it is very important to let companies experiment. And I think on the governmental side, it's important to facilitate for Vietnamese companies to work with partners, learn from others who have already gone through the journey, and also incentivize this kind of investment. So I think we're quite agreed here, but it's important to get into the details and really try to show that it brings value.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right. Very interesting that you share this perspective, and may I also chip in from KPMG perspective. Like as a advisor, when we help our client to look at their digital transformation journey, we look at the thing more from operating model, processes, operating model, and when it comes to the smart factories or digital transformation, is very important that you look deep dive into what you are doing, and then that is whereby you can come up with a better, and like in the definition I called it at the beginning of this talk show, you can modify the system, or you can create the new processes, because the actually eventually technology solution are actually the platform where you apply the new processes on this. So that's why digital transformation actually give you a chance to look at your business from a new angle, how you can do what you are doing better. Yeah. So when it comes to that, I think we can also look at an aspect of the digital transformation in terms of, now we hear people talk a lot about digital transformation, but the question is, when you want to do a transformation, how you can ensure that you can do it successfully, because it is not that easy. And a transformation, either it don't start, but if it does start and then it fails, I think more problems and issues would actually be created. So it leads us to the next question for discussion is, how do you think, what do you think as attributes to the success of a digital transformation? What are the key success factors? And may I start with Manda again, and our discussion around the digital transformation for smart factories.
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly,
Yeah.
so what benefit it brings, or what is the question? Can you please?
Yeah, the
let me know
question
what's-
is actually, when you start your digital transformation, what are actually the success factors
Okay,
to
right.
ensure that you will have a successful digital transformation?
Right, to start with, probably as someone of us already said, the need. We need to establish and understand the need first very clearly. There is enough data available with the right networking, with the right kind of partner. What is the real need? And then comes the digital maturity of the organization. Not every company is digitally matured at the right stage to adopt the right technology. So there comes the assessment part of it, what Mr. Chung has rightly mentioned. So once this is assessed, there are probably quite leading partners available today who can take it up to the next level. Right. For specifically in our case, what we are learning is, given the situation we are in, this is no more a choice. Probably it's a must to go ahead with this transformation. Now, when it comes to the transformation, let me take you to the two sides of it. One is the hardware side of it, another is the software side of it. And the buzzword there is IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things. Now, I'll take you down a little bit deep here. Now, the hardware part of it is we have the partners, and on the software part of it, we have the partners. So we need to find someone who understands our need as well as the hardware need and the software need. Now, coming back to what are the success factors? Success factors is precisely every business has their own vision, where they want to reach in 5 years' time. And to reach there, what are the needs they have? And one of that is definitely digital transformation. And once it comes to the success factor, probably the numbers are there. We do have our internal matrix, which we do probably in terms of finance, IRR, etc. Once we do that, it gives a clear signal, this is a yes go. And coming back to the floor level, software level, factory level, we have seen it's a definite win-win situation. For example, few of the lines we had probably the downside was packing was done a kind of manual operation. We have changed all to the robots and goes to the ABB. So that's a company which takes the lead.
Yeah.
Sorry for taking a name here. However, so we have done the completely manual line to a completely robotic line, where the efficiency has gone up. People are more relaxed. We can manage with less people. And more than that, probably one thing is very pertinent in this pandemic situation. Probably without digitization, without automation, the companies could not even survive without that.
Right. So among all of the success factors, having the right partner who understand your needs is very, very important. Yeah. And how about you? I mean, what do you think? What is your view on this?
Well,
David?
I think that Manuel is actually very right on this. Start with the need.
Okay.
Because one problem that tends to happen when you talk about digitalization, a lot of companies, I would say, go into it head first and just go for the coolest, latest technology.
Right.
And that's not necessarily what you need. And in order to really be successful with the transformation, a lot of the time you need to show that the transformation is going in the right direction. And there I really like what Mandel says, look at who has been working with it before, what partners can you have in this transformation journey, and try to jointly identify where's the intersection of our business needs and the technology available. And that I think is the most important thing for every company going through digital transformation. Then on a societal perspective, right, it's very important to keep in mind that there are many different factors here. So you can do this automation journey for cost reasons. It can be that a robot is just cheaper, but it's not necessarily the only thing you should be looking at. I think one thing that is usually kind of missed when we're talking about automation and smart manufacturing is the quality aspect of it and the ability to have smart control. Because I always like to compare Sweden and Vietnam, because I think there are a lot of similarities actually. We are strong countries, but we're still relatively small in our region. And that means we have to be open, we have to collaborate, and that means that you have to, have data flows and communication with many different partners internationally. I think this is one of the reasons why Sweden is usually ranked so high in terms of speaking English, because we have to. We're too small to spread Swedish across the world. But yeah, setting up that connectivity, working together globally, really challenging the status quo, because transformation will always make something disappear. And just be willing to take the risk to push it incrementally into the future, I think is important.
Very interesting. So I think that we can summarize, like identify the right need, ensure that you have a very strong ability to smartly control the quality, and the working together are also very important factors. So yeah, I'd like to hear your view, Dennis.
No, I think it's very, very important to focus on the need, and it's not just about technology, it is about people and processes. I think those three components come together. People first, actually, I would say.
Okay.
Technology is the enabler, ultimately, and the processes are super important. The need from a broader context, especially in Vietnam's case, I would say, is that, you look back in the last 30 years, Vietnam has enjoyed average GDP growth rates of about 6% per annum, became a middle-income economy in 2010. The poverty rate in 1993, when Ericsson opened its office here, was about 53%. Today it's less than 3%. The economy is booming. The Vietnamese government has taken many strong, very visionary decisions that has really propelled Vietnam. And if you look back at that 30 years journey, it was very much fueled by a traditional economy that was geared towards cheap land, low-cost labour, natural resources, finite resources like oil and gas and other minerals. Now moving forward, the new economy is very much driven by science, technology, innovation, by data, and data becomes the new oil. And data has no limit, it's infinite. There's no barriers to data. So the possibilities are limitless, and with connectivity, possibilities and advancements become limitless, as far as our imagination can take us, actually. So clearly in the case of manufacturing, we see a strong need, because in Vietnam, the labour productivity growth rates have over the last few years been in decline relative to countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. And therefore, if your labour productivity growth rates are in decline relative to other ASEAN countries in the neighbourhood, then some of the manufacturing jobs in the future could go to those countries. So the government took a very strategic decision a few years ago to promote Industry 4.0 and accelerate Industry 4.0 in Vietnam, enabled by 5G and enabling critical national infrastructure. And that is super important, because those labour productivity growth rates, which now the government targets at about 7% per annum by 2025 and 7.5% per annum by 2030, will help, again, attract more manufacturing jobs, manufacturing FDI to Vietnam. But that manufacturing will be smart manufacturing. It'll mean less people as well in the factories. Ericsson has a factory in Texas. We only have 100 people. It's 100% renewable energy in that factory. We use 5G technology to automate basically everything. We have smart robots basically across the factory floor. 100 people in total for the factory means that over time there'll be many jobs displaced. Because when you look at Vietnam, manufacturing, fishery, forestry, retail and agriculture accounts for about 70% of the workforce.
That's right.
And as we automate and as we make these industries more efficient through Industry 4.0, through digital transformation, they will become more productive. It will attract more investment for Vietnam, which is fantastic. It'll mean many jobs will be displaced, but like with every other industrial revolution, the first, the second, the third, and now the fourth, the jobs that are displaced is far less than the new jobs that will be created.
Exactly right.
And that's where technology comes to the rescue. That's why 5G is so important. 5G doesn't only enable digital transformation, but it also enables innovation. 5G is an innovation platform that drives startup entrepreneurship. So when it's done right, and Vietnam certainly is focused on building the digital economy, which is growing rapidly, they're focused on enabling startup entrepreneurship. I think Vietnam now, in terms of the ASEAN region, is number 3 for startup ecosystem. That will create new jobs off 5G, which will create new companies, new industries, and many new jobs will be created that far outweigh those that will be displaced over the next 2 or 3 decades across those industries. So that's the good news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
Generally, there was a fear about the general fear that jobs will go down. But as you rightly said, there will be more job creation even in other sectors.
Yeah. So thank you, Dennis. And what you mentioned about people, process, technology enablers, and I love the way that you put it, how it's relevant to the Vietnam context, because like you share that manufacturing, retailers, agriculture account for 70% of our labor force. So look at the people is one of the very key success factors. And Chung, based on your BVBA and day-to-day work from Baker McKenzie, what would you like to chip in, please?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I agree with all the great comments by our fellow panelists. I suppose the way I look at it as well is there's a bit of internal factors and external factors. We talk about identifying needs, and you just sort of dig a little deeper into that. I think the companies and businesses have to ask themselves, what is it that they're trying to address? What is it they're trying to change? Okay? Because sometimes it could be just back-end stuff. I want to be more efficient. I want to make sure that I'm managing my internal risk. Our quality control has to be better. We need to be pumping out products faster. Okay, so that's all about enhancing your own efficiency or your own efficiency or safety or security on the back end. Okay, but then we talk about word transformation. Then actually you're also looking at the front side of the business. Is like, does something really change? All right. I mean, it's just like these days we carry on all smart devices, and each time there's a new iteration, the cameras just get more and more powerful and more pixels in it, right? I do believe that when the smartphones were first launched, folks were wondering, oh, do we really need such a powerful camera on our mobile devices? Of course, the short answer today is yes. Okay, so that means the model changes, or sometimes it could be, let's look at vehicles, right? From the internal combustion engine, and now all moving to electric vehicles, all right, whether using battery technology or hydrogen technology, and that, I think that's still a debate, and that market is still fighting over which direction it would go. So I think the point there is that as you look at transformation, are you trying to improve on your own efficiencies, or are you really, or are you changing your business model? We're not doing internal combustion engines, we're doing EVs. Or we're going autonomous vehicles, or we're just pooling vehicles for rent because nobody's going to buy a vehicle anymore. So I think these are some of the considerations that the companies and businesses have to think about. Now, on the external factors, and I think the folks here covered that as well, some things in a way are a bit out of your control, right? So it could be legal framework, it could be infrastructure. It's just like, okay, 5G has great promises, great uses, but I do believe that Vietnam right now is still being rolled out on a pilot program basis.
That's right.
So when is the government actually going to really open the doors, giving licenses and approvals, or what's holding it back? So these are some of the external factors that I think companies have to consider. And touching on the HR side of things, I think that's really, really important. Much as we're focused on, AI, automation, robotics, let's not forget, we are the people for the people. So I do hope and I do believe that, whether it is the companies themselves or whether it's government or other institutions, will continue to invest in training and educating, the workforce, all right, for a digital workplace. And I think that's really important. No, we said that, it creates actually new opportunities as well, and that's true. So let's touch briefly on cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity is another area in which, yes, on one hand, the companies and businesses have some level of control over, but some things are on infrastructure outside your control. Okay? So, I mean, to achieve success in digital transformation, to me, that's the internal half and that's the external half. If those two don't gel, then you get somewhere, but you certainly could be more successful if they're working together. And as far as training folks is concerned, I suppose that one new area where people can sort of further their education experience around would be on cybersecurity. So there are new opportunities, and I think that again, whether it's companies or businesses, is to invest in the workforce for the digital age.
Thank you. And I think that legal framework infrastructures, those excellent factors or the ecosystem created by the government is also one of the very key success factors for the companies, for smart factories, to be successful in their digital transformation. I love to leverage on your point, and actually all of the points mentioned by the panelists about the human resources. So in KPMG, for example, we have a consulting line and we call it people and change. We do not just call it people, but we call it people and change, because whatever we talk about, eventually it all comes to the people. And recently when we talk with our client, we see that they put a question a lot on the digital mindset, on how they have to change their KPI to assess whether their people are ready for digital transformation, what kind of training they have to put on, what kind of culture they have to create to really motivate people to go through interesting but also very challenging journey of digital transformation. So people are definitely a key. So because we mentioned about the 5G, and some people also say that 5G are actually open endless opportunities for digital transformation. I would love to hear your views on actually how 5G, and we know that they are just like at the trial stage in Vietnam now, but how 5G will play a role to support the smart factories to go through their digital transformation. So you would like to share your view first, Dennis?
Sure, no problem. 5G in Vietnam, we've been doing commercial trials actually with the leading three operators, Mobifone, VNPT and Viettel, since 2020, late 2020, and those commercial trials continue. And those trials actually are expanding, and they are putting the 5G base stations in industrial zones as a priority, which is very wise, because that's where they're going to be needed most in terms of manufacturing and other industry applications. The auction for the spectrum, of course, will follow, and we expect 5G to really become a mass deployment from 2023-24 onwards. And Vietnam, I think, has taken the lead in many ways, actually, in doing these trials and pilots quite early. In 2019 was the first technical trials, and then commercial trials or pilots in 2020. 5G plays a significant role, and we've surveyed across 22 countries, actually, Ericsson. We have this thing called Industry Lab, where we go around and ask different companies across different countries. In India, for example, we asked many hundreds of manufacturers for their opinion on when they see 5G playing a role in their manufacturing, what they consider a priority tool or technology. And basically we saw that the majority, 2/3 of the people or companies that we surveyed felt that 5G will be deployed in their factory environments within the next 5 years. And they rated 5G as the #1 tool. So when we talked earlier about people, processes and technology or tools, 5G is considered the #1 tool or technology for that enablement. We also found that more than 2/3, about 75% of companies that we surveyed consider that 80% of their operations will be automated within the next 10 years through 5G.
Okay.
So they all understand the importance of that. And Ericsson globally, we've been partnering, and collaboration we talked about earlier is super important. I agree with the comments made by all my colleagues here today. So collaboration is very important, especially when it comes to 5G, because with manufacturing, for example, we've partnered with Mercedes-Benz to build one of the world's first smart manufacturing facilities for the automotive industry, and we did that in Germany in partnership with obviously Mercedes-Benz, but also Telefonica, the mobile operator in Germany, and that brought a lot of the technology that you saw in the video earlier today, the automotive aspect of it, the mobile remote robots and the autonomous guided vehicles, the remote tracking of assets and inventory, the predictive maintenance aspects with IoT.
I'll touch that after that, yeah.
That's important. The digital twin technology that enables you to simulate processes and improve them in real time before actually deploying them physically. The safety aspect, having robots take care of a lot of the hazardous materials and things that you don't want people to be subjected to. Getting the robots to do more of the mundane things so that the people can do more of the high level intelligent things. So all these type of technologies, which Ericsson partnered, by the way, with another Swedish company called Hexagon on actually creating a lot of these use cases. We've done that with Mercedes-Benz. We've also done it with Atlas Copco, another Swedish company who deals in vacuums and generators and other sort of power tools and things. We basically work with them as well in their factory in Belgium with another operator called Orange we've collaborated with. And Ericsson's own factory in Texas in the US, which I mentioned earlier, we've obviously deployed 5G there in partnership with a mobile operator there. So it is about collaboration and partnership, and we see that 5G will now continually over time as a journey, as a topic today, path, it's a journey, it never ends. We continue to grow and bring 5G to more manufacturing facilities around the world, but always in partnership with mobile operators, preferably, together with the actual facility owners.
Very, very impressive, and I think that we can see from what you share how important 5G will play in the next 5 years at least, right? And John, can you jump in and share your views on this, especially, you know, from your view at the VVAC when you work with the business community?
Yeah, I mean, 5G is going to be the technology, I think, that enables a high level of connectivity. I do believe it's called ultra reliable, low latency communications. Is that right?
Yeah.
I've done my research.
You try to be an Ericsson guy,
Technology guy. And the other thing about it is that it can have mass communication with a lot of the low-powered IoT devices. All right, so it can have a wide coverage. Because IoT, I mean, there's a lot of monitoring, there's sensors, they're low-powered, but there's so many. All right, so I do believe that 5G is the technology that can connect all of this. So I think that's the connectivity part, and essentially is to make the system interoperable. So I think what's also going to be interesting is that we see that once there's so much connectivity, systems talking to each other, robots telling each other, okay, there's a problem here, fix it here. Okay, tell the guys further down the production line there's going to be a delay, and maybe you tell the executive to send a message to the customer. Sorry, there'll be 1 day delay. Okay, but what it also demonstrates is that there's going to be minimal to zero human intervention in between, right? And that is where machine learning, AI, driven by big data, is going to play a key role. So I think that's going to be very interesting, but I'm sure it also comes with its own challenges and issues. All right, because if you have AI making a certain decision, saying that, oh, that's good, or that's bad, or it should be rectified this way, it does create its own questions about, is it going to be ultimately the right decision, or could there be other outcomes that were not predicted? So I think these are just some of the issues that we see around IoT and 5G. But certainly, as a technology, certainly as where smart manufacturing should go to. We hope that the government will be giving the approvals to roll out 5G sooner than later.
So David, you want to share your view, please?
No, so I think it's good to have experts with you, and my role is kind of working with experts who get into all of the details. But the way I like to think about it, right, it's like in terms of functional scope, what 5G is, it is not really a new thing, it's more on the connectivity. But when that connectivity throughout the value chain of most companies gets stronger, I think particularly for low latency is a very, very big thing with 5G. It does enable you to do some quite fantastic things, right? So I remember when I was growing up in rural Sweden once upon a time, and the internet was a modem that made a lot of strange noises, and then you make a request to see a picture of a cool car, and then it takes a while, and then you see a picture of a cool car. Putting that into a business organization is kind of hard, right? But now already we have basically live streaming video, some delays, but what I see coming with 5G are all these kind of real-time kind of interaction globally. I think that was going to be very interesting. And of course there are a lot of challenges when it comes to connectivity with cybersecurity and how do we control AI and such. But that is why I would reiterate the need to look at what is the use case here, build it step by step, and make sure that the people are along on the journey, because what is valuable to you today might not be valuable to you tomorrow. So really a thoughtful approach is needed on this one.
Thank you very much. So real-time connectivity and build up the use case are one of the very key important that people need to consider. And Mondan, I may ask you to share your view.
Right. In my own way, the definition of efficiency is speed with perfection. I repeat, it's speed with perfection is the efficiency. And who can do it better without 5G? It's a 5G which will definitely bring the speed, and the perfection comes into play. Let me take you down to the extreme software level. He touched about the predictive maintenance. We call it condition-based maintenance management system. What we put is, we put some smart sensors in the motors. Sorry for being a bit technical here, but to bring the flavor here, to bring the spice here, I'm taking you down here. So motors are very heart of any manufacturing plant really, right? So you put the smart sensor there. What it does, it transmits three data: the heat, the current, and the vibration. It goes to the cloud, and at this moment, due to speed probably, the predictive part of it could be, with 5G speed, probably there is an opportunity much faster. We know when the health of the motor can go down, and so that we can do the entire planning part of it. 25 years ago, we used to keep one big motor as a standby. That's bye-bye, no more. With 3G, we know 2 months down the line, we are going to replace the bearing. With 5G, probably 6 months before, I know, so I can schedule my planning, the supply capability in much more precise.
So thank you. And throughout all of our discussion, we keep mentioning about the ecosystem, the regulatory framework. Mean that we mention a very, very important stakeholder here, the Vietnam government. So I wish to hear your views on how the Vietnam government, what they should focus on to ensure to have the entities to be successful in their journey in digital transformation for smart factories. And we should not forget that, the Vietnam ambition, right, we become the next manufacturing hub in the region. So may I ask you to start first, David, please?
Well, very interesting question, I think, and part of the reasons why I'm here, right, is to work on these topics. So I think in general, of course, there will have to be a lot of competition here. I think it's important that the government opens up and makes it easy to try to develop in this area. If it is, coming in with investments and setting up manufacturing here, or if it is, incentivizing through tax schemes and such for special zones, and then actually bring this into your infrastructure planning, I think is key as well. I think we've worked together in the past on grid management, and when you have this fast-growing economy, specifically with manufacturing FDI, you have to have, let's say, coherent planning on these topics.
Okay.
But I think what is very important is when we're talking here, we're talking about a lot of use cases, right, that are quite detailed. They're quite different in different industries, and thus I think it's important to facilitate collaboration. And if that is, making it easy to work with international partners, then that is something that the Vietnamese government would do well to focus on. Or if it is just such thing as setting up, these special zones in the country where you can have a little bit more of an innovative culture and you can assume more risk.
Right.
I always also, when it comes to the topic of innovation and Swedish learnings here, of course, investment in education is very important. But one thing that a lot of people forget is also kind of the social safety net that we have in Sweden. Stockholm is usually lauded as the second most innovative city after Silicon Valley when it comes to tech startups. And I think that is a combination of, this kind of open market approach where you can come and establish a company quite easily, strong educational system, but also if your idea, if you dream big and try something and it doesn't work, you won't have to live in the street. And I think that is very important as well to keep in mind.
Well, thank you, David. Incentives, infrastructure, coherent plan, and also innovative zones are some of the suggestions that the government can focus on. Chong, would you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I'd be glad to, especially from a VBF perspective.
Yeah.
Where you have dialogue with the government in order to advocate certain points, to have reforms, and to create a better business environment. So in terms of legal, there are two key laws that I think the government is continuing to work on, which industry is concerned about, and one is the cybersecurity law, and one is the decree on personal data protection. In general, you can understand why these laws are so important in this day and age, right? Cybersecurity, protecting information, as well as protecting personal information. But having said that, data needs to flow. Data has to cross borders. And so we're hoping, we're urging the government to ensure that even as they have a bit more governance and compliance requirements around the use of data, it's also to enable the safe and secure flow and legitimate use of data. So that's one of the areas that we're looking at. I think secondly, and because David did touch on incentives, so tax incentives be one of the things to look at. But we know, especially in this day and age where there's chip shortages, and there are certain countries that are really pushing hard to attract chip makers to come to the countries or their cities with a $3 billion or more investment, and some are even giving cash grants for that. So I think the Vietnam government, looking at tax incentives, improving workforce skill sets, those certain tools on the table, but I think they have to be looking at other ways to attract such large-scale investments into Vietnam.
Right. So data governance and compliance, why it need to be ensured that it is looked at it carefully, but it should still ensure does not create any obstacles for the data flow in and out of the country to create more of innovation environment.
Yes, that's correct. And very quickly, I kind of see them like traffic rules.
Yeah.
We drive cars and motorbikes, we can go in any direction. But we don't. Why? Because we have traffic rules that tell us, drive this way, stop the red light, signal before you turn. So data has to move, vehicles have to move. We just need to know the meaningful rules around it.
Yeah. And Mandan, when would you want to?
My view or my point would be government should have a very balanced, structured approach towards this. It's nice to have, and probably it's a must to have, having a digitization transformation. At the same token, we need to take the full picture into account, which does mean as we said in previous discussion, there will be some elimination of jobs. So job creation on the other sectors are very important. So the societal balance is very important. So it has to be a bit balanced, structured approach.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure Dennis, you would be the perfect guy to wrap up, on this.
No, thank you for that. I think the comments were all very, very good, by the way. Now, I fully agree that, especially what David mentioned about academia as well. So it really is a triple helix model, collaboration between industry, like Ericsson, obviously, academia and government. As an example, we are partnering with RMIT University in Vietnam to bring 5G education to students across Vietnam for the next 3 years in 5G, AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud computing, edge computing, machine learning, etc. So that's super important. I think the government's doing a fantastic job in promoting STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics in academia to try and obviously create the workforce of the future that will be very much around data and digital transformation, digital technology. The government's done a great job in having this Industry 4.0 national strategy, digital transformation strategy. Their socio-economic development plan from 2021 to 2030 clearly articulates the importance of 5G as an enabling platform for Industry 4.0, and they've put some very key goals and objectives in place for that I mentioned earlier. The government is also very much focused, especially the Ministry of Planning and Investment, on attracting high-tech FDI to Vietnam, and they've put that in place as well, and a lot of good regulations around that and a good incentivisation around that as well. And as part of my previous role when I was chairman of the European Chamber of Commerce some years ago, we were very active, and I recall the government back then and today is very receptive and open to receiving feedback and recommendations from chambers, from the VBF, through the Advisory Council for Administrative Procedural Reform, where they constantly look to improve regulations, policies, legal frameworks to make it easier to do business and invest in Vietnam. So the government is doing a great job, and they should just continue, I think, along all those paths and all those avenues and initiatives to continue to make it even easier to digitally transform Vietnam in a step-by-step way. Because we talk about the path, and I think we touched on it as well today. Chung may have mentioned it earlier as well. We need to start small. I think it's important when you take on a digital transformation journey in any organisation, think about the people, the processes, the technology, and make sure you start small, have quick wins, successes, and then assess, monitor regularly how you're going, progress, take next steps, of course, make sure you buy in with the support of all your people, get the people to support what you're doing, get feedback from your people along the journey, and make alterations as you go. And collaboration at the end of it, really wrap it all around collaboration. I think collaboration and partnership is key. We can't do it on our own. We all need each other, as we have today. I think collaborated very well as well. So collaboration, I think partnership is key.
Thank you. I think it's a fantastic ending note, for the topic we discussed. So as we already discussed in the last 1.5 hours, digital transformation is a journey, and because it is a journey, it requires that we, all of the stakeholders, need to continue to evolve and changing and adapt. So we trust that the Vietnam government will continue introducing and creating a solid regulatory framework, a good incentive scheme, and also an innovative ecosystem to help the entities and business community to be successful with their digital transformation. And here I also want to thank you, all of the panelists. I've been fortunate to moderate various panels on my day-to-day job, but I must say that this is one of the most interesting panel really I've been doing, because I think that you have brought really insightful and very comprehensive and also different perspectives from what you are doing day to day. I wish you good health and success in your business, and I also want to thank VIR to cooperate with KPMG to create this interesting platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much.